Hi everyone and happy Friday and welcome to Feisty on Friday. Today I'm excited to talk to you about actually a pretty big topic, which is how we are so hard on ourselves and how to stop that habit of beating ourselves up and being hard on ourselves. Um, Hello Sharon Miller, good to see you here. So this topic, it was just kind of clear as day to me that this is what makes sense for me to talk to you guys about. For those of you who maybe don't know, I celebrated my birthday yesterday. And thank you to everyone who sent me love and affection. I so appreciate that. And I think a really big journey in my life, really big, has been how to stop being so hard on myself. And I certainly don't have it all figured out, but I have learned some things about that for sure. So part of this, part of all these journeys that I ever talk about, right, is awareness. We have to be aware of what we're doing in order to change it or shift it or do something different, or make a behavior change that actually serves us. So I started thinking about all the ways that we are hard on ourselves. And yeah, I made a list even to try to help you in bringing some awareness to this topic. How can we be hard on ourselves? Number one, we can give ourselves a hard time for what we are doing, what we choose to do. Our choices about going to the gym or not going to the gym, or taking that phone call or not taking that phone call. So it's not just about, we give ourselves a hard time about not just what are we doing, but what we are choosing not to do. We give ourselves a hard time for decisions that we've made in the past. And our choice to take care of ourselves. Sometimes even when we choose self-care, we can also be hard on ourselves because we're saying, oh, we shouldn't have spent our time doing that, or oh, I can't believe I'm spending so much on this, and there's all these different ways that we're beating ourselves up with even the things that are good for us. We give ourselves a hard time for financial decisions all the time, beating ourselves up for was it the right thing or was it the wrong thing, or why I shouldn't do this, or what have you. Also about timings of things, like time in general, we can give ourselves a hard time about, well, we should be in a different place than where we are right now, or I should have achieved this, or I should have been more productive today. All things related to time, we can often give ourselves a really hard time about. Also, big one, a body image. We look in the mirror and we beat ourselves up, or we're in the shower, we beat ourselves up. We're doing our hair, we beat ourselves up. And also the food that we eat, and that's a big one for me that I'll talk about a little bit later. But we beat ourselves up for our choices about like having that piece of chocolate or having a piece of cake or having the burger because we were in the mood when we went out, and we also give ourselves a hard time for our reactions to things, So I just wanted to go through that list to hopefully bring awareness to how you might be beating yourself up and not even like realizing it or knowing it. So I asked, like, how long have you been doing this? Like, do you want to stop that? Like, do you want to be kinder to yourself? Do you want to be your own best friend? Because often how we treat ourselves is worse than we would ever treat anyone else. Like, the things that we say to ourselves can be so harsh, and things we would never ever say to anybody else. And that's just really an indication of like how hard you're being on yourself. And the thing is that I think this is something that I experienced, right? Which is like, I thought, okay, I know I'm hard on myself, but like, it's just me. Like, I'm just I'm not impacting anybody else with that. And that's not true at all. We are teaching people how to treat us with this. And sometimes what I realized actually when I had a woman working for me, God bless her, I had this conversation with her. We had this very special, unique relationship. And I said to her, I said, yeah, I realize like I'm being really hard on myself. And she was like, you think? And I was like, oh, wait, well, how do you know that I'm hard on myself? And, she started to explain that to me. And then she started talking about how she felt like, how could she ever live up to my expectations because I was being so hard on myself. And I was like, wow, like that's so true. That this idea of how, when we're hard on ourselves, it doesn't just impact us, it impacts those around us. And welcome, Vital Voice Training, for joining. I'm so glad that you're here. We're talking about this idea of how we're hard on ourselves and what we can do about it. It's just such a huge topic, and one that's really near and dear to my heart because I beat myself up. I mean, and I'm not going to say I still don't. I'm a work in progress, but like, wow, that's something that really was not good. And I think the other question around this, like how we are yeah, you're familiar with it too. Yeah. How we're impacting those around us. Like, are you expecting other people to treat you kinder than you treat yourself? Because that's a tricky thing right there. How you're treating yourself is showing others how you expect to be treated. And whether that's a family dynamic, a coworker dynamic, it doesn't really matter. Anywhere in your life. Whether or not people are seeing or hearing the thoughts that are in your head that you tell yourself, how you are acting, that it comes out, right? Like energetically, or just how you treat others, or how how you go about your day, it comes through. And so that's something to also, I would say, like, start to like look at and have some awareness of like, how are people reacting to me when I'm being hard on myself? And maybe that's you're talking to yourself, or you're talking to your girlfriend out loud about your body image stuff, or your husband or whatever, and then see how they're reacting to like this negative self-talk. And sometimes when we do this with others, when we're hard on ourselves with others, it's a way for us to actually it's a way that we're trying to find connection, because there's deeper things going on, like loneliness, like frustration, like whatever. And so that actually creates like a toxic relationship too, because then you're just begetting this idea of like, it's okay to be hard on ourselves, and we're just kind of confirming that this is okay, this is how we connect to each other, and it's like bullshit. It's total bullshit. And then I would ask yourself, well, where did this start? Like, where did this behavior of like beating myself up start? And that you know how it goes. Go back to the childhood for one, and former bosses, whatever, siblings, parents, you name it. Like when you didn't get the A, how did your parents respond to that? When you got the C, and it doesn't even have to mean that they were giving you a hard time. Maybe it means that you came home and you expressed how upset you were that you got a C, and they didn't say anything, which kind of acts as confirmation that it's okay that you're being hard on yourself. And that's really dangerous too. And so we can start to say, we can ask ourselves the why or the how did we get to this place. For some people that might be helpful. For other people, it's maybe not. And maybe you just want to say, okay, look, I don't need to get into the psychology of it. I just want to figure out how not to do it. And either way, it's fine. Like for me, I've done both, right? I've tried to like figure out where this comes from, and I've also been like, doesn't effing matter. I just want to like not be hard on myself anymore. You know, I want to free up that energy and feel lighter and be the best friend to myself that I am to other people. So, I think one of the examples I'll just give, it's kind of, it's extreme, but it's not extreme, because I think if you actually did the work of like logging all the things that you say to yourself that are beating yourself up, you might be surprised and disgusted. And in fact, that's often what I tell my clients to do as the first thing around this topic of, inner critics, of being hard on yourself, all that kind of language is write it down. Every time that you hear your voice, that voice in your head say, "Oh, you should have not had that donut this morning," or, "Oh, look at you, you put on a couple pounds," or, "Oh my gosh, like it took you an hour to do that. It shouldn't have taken you an hour to do that." Like those types of things that are popping up in your head, write them all down and see what's coming up. Step number 1. And step number 2 is identifying. First of all, do that for a couple of weeks. Don't even try to figure it out. Do it for a couple of weeks. Step number 2 is to pull it away from yourself. When those voices come, you say, my inner critic thinks that, ... Because those voices are not you. They are this conditioned part of you that's not serving you anymore. Maybe at one point it was trying to keep you safe, but now it is like doing the absolute opposite. It's keeping you small. And yeah, vital voice, like absolutely. It's so much easier for us to be kinder to others than it is ourselves. Why is that? That's like so messed up. And pull it away from yourself, right? So I start, even at my birthday, right? I got home and I was like, wow, I'm full. Like I had a good meal, and I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have got the pasta. I was like, no, it was my birthday, first of all. And even if it wasn't my birthday, like, hey, Bob, we're talking about how we're so hard on ourselves today. I'm so glad you're here. And so it just can really sneak in. Like I said, I'm a work in progress. But what I was going to share is I was always pretty hard on myself. And I think part of it was like other people were hard on me, right? Oh, hey, why do you look like that? Oh, that kind of stuff. Not like, oh, why do you look different? Oh, that's cool. Oh, wow. That's what you had to endure and go through. No, that's not the kind of responses I got. It was like not celebrating me, And so I think some of that, for example, was why I was hard on myself. I also think that, I used some of that as motivators. That's another thing that happens. Like we use the harshness as motivators. And a lot of my clients think that, yeah, but that's what keeps me going. That's what makes me work hard. And the thing is that what you don't know is how much better you could feel and how much more amazing and how much more magic you can create if the energy didn't come from being hard on yourself, but the energy came from celebrating yourself. Just think about that concept, because every time I share it, people are like, no, like that's not what's going to help me, because you are so conditioned, you are so brainwashed, you are so, society is not helping us be kinder to ourselves in like every single facet. So yeah, what would be possible if we didn't beat ourselves up? How could that change our lives for the better in all aspects? So one of the examples for myself, which I've shared once before, which is like when I was 22, I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. Hello, life changer. First of all, what happens around health, especially around health? I don't think I mentioned that, right? Like health is one that we can beat ourselves up for. So one of the immediate thoughts that I had was, what did I do to deserve this? Why me, right? And so all of a sudden, it's like I'm blaming myself for this health condition. Like that's not healthy. It's like I have this like new health problem, and on top of this health challenge, now I'm beating myself up, like making it even worse. So, okay, so there was that, but then also just the nature of, dealing with this disease. What you put in your body, like, impacts everything, right? It impacts how much insulin I have to take. It impacts how I feel. It impacts my energy levels, right? It's like and it impacts my long-term health. So for years, and I mean, like what, I've had this for like almost 20 years, right? Past 19 years, something like that, 18 years. I got into this habit of just beating myself up for anything that I put into my body that wasn't like salad. And part of that is like healthcare system, and we're not going to address that right now. That's like a topic for another day, another Feisty on Friday for sure. But to say that I didn't know any other way to deal with these decisions I had to make every day, every meal, like in terms of like beating myself up because I was so used to beating myself up in other ways about my appearance, about like, my grades, about my work, about, my interactions with people. It was just like I had already had that behavior, and then at 22 I had this new thing, and it was like I was beating myself even more. And let me tell you, I had a nutritionist right before, like last year, or like a year and a half ago, whatever. And she was somebody that her family, like she had 2 sons that were diabetic, and her husband was also. And granted, I hadn't had a lot of support, from, nutritionists and things throughout my life, because again, which I've talked about in the past, like I didn't necessarily get the support that I should have gotten or that I really needed early on. And so I was like, I figured out a lot of stuff on my own. And so I was talking to this one nutritionist because I had decided like I need to figure some stuff out. I need some support. And I was about to go on my trip to Italy for my milestone birthday, and I was talking to this nutritionist, and I was just like, what am I gonna do? Like there's gonna be, all these temptations everywhere, and da 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 da. And she was like, first of all, you're going to Italy. Second of all, it's your freaking birthday. And third of all, you have the medication in order to be able to eat what you want. I mean, not like unbridled what I want, but like, yeah, I can have pasta if I want. It's not like I can't, So it was almost like she gave me this permission slip, right? To do what I wanted and not feel bad about it. And this might sound crazy, but that freaking changed everything for me. I was like, oh my God, right. I don't have to beat myself up about this. And I think that really did start to transform for myself, how to not be so hard on myself. Like, how can I choose to eat something and say, I'm going to eat this and enjoy it. It's my choice. I can do it. And then when I'm ingesting something that I'm saying is going to bring me joy with that intent, how does that like energetically then impact what my body does with that? I think it does impact how we receive the intake, I got into this whole like food thing, but I think like, I think that this is actually a big one for a lot of people in terms of how we beat ourselves up. And I think there's another piece of this in terms of, well, how do you beat yourself up less, is realizing, again, usually our inner critics sound like I should or I need to, right? Usually that's a really good indicator. Or like another indicator that it's an inner critic voice is like I always. It's, these absolutes usually are an inner critic voice, because nothing is ever absolute in our life. And so what you can do also is take your power back by identifying, well, are you choosing to do something? Oh yes, I'm choosing this cake because it's my freaking birthday, or I'm choosing not to go to the gym today because I have some other things that I need to do. And I'm 100% okay with that, So I think that, again, coming back to how we treat ourselves not only impacts how the energy that we're going through life with, but it also impacts those around us, because there's no way that that doesn't impact others. It's the same thing as if like you're in an amazing mood, you know, and you just got that pep in your step and you've just got that vibe, and others catch on to that, right? I think we can more easily see how others catch on to our good vibes than we actually see how they catch on to like the negative vibes. And look, I think that especially in this day and age, right, when there's been so much shaming going on for differences, for whether it's differences in how we appear, differences in how we process information, differences in how we do things. And that kind of shaming from others can really contribute to why and how we're hard on ourselves. And breaking that pattern is I'm not gonna lie, it is difficult, and it takes effort. It takes making a different choice, just slowly but surely. Any kind of change and transformation takes time, you know. And I think there's a huge difference between telling ourselves, well, this is who I am. This is who I am. I crack the whip on myself. Versus seeing it as, this is how I've been conditioned to be with myself. Those are two very different things. And I'm here to tell you, it is not who you are. We don't come into this world with the mentality of, let's be hard on ourselves so that we can like crack ourselves into shape. No, that's not how we come into this world. That's what I believe. You know, you take it for what it is. But I really do believe that. And so we have to decondition. We have to unpeel the layers of what are we doing to ourselves so that we can be free and live a more free life, and also help others in living free lives for themselves. Because as we heal ourselves, we're healing others. We're healing those around us. We're healing our family, because we are changing the way that we are behaving, whether it's because people are seeing that there's a different way, or whether it's just energetically they sense something different and something shifts. There's all kinds of, I can go on and on about why when we work on ourselves, we're actually working on a greater good. But even if you take it from just looking at your inner circles, and when you make changes, how actually changes do happen around you as well. So yeah, and you know what? Sometimes when we do this type of work and we are kind of getting to the higher version of ourselves, like the most authentic version of ourselves, the truest version of ourselves that wants to be kind to us, sometimes what happens is we might lose some people in our life because they have been addicted to this feeling, this process of being hard on themselves. And all of a sudden you might be, behaving differently, and they don't feel comfortable around that because they just want to keep beating themselves up. So sometimes some of the consequence can be like the people around you change because you are changing, because you are saying, you know what, I don't want to beat myself up anymore. And I want to celebrate the decisions that I made, and I want to celebrate where I am right now, because it's the only freaking place that I could be is where I am. So yeah, I mean, it's a big topic, and I think that, for me, it really came up, because it's like my birthday, and how do I want to be different with myself? And it's come up with a lot of conversations with others, with clients, with friends, and it is sad to me when I see it in myself and when I see it in others that we are just so harsh. And it doesn't have to be that way. There is another way. There's another way to propel ourselves forward without, beating the damn, the horse to get, to keep going, And actually, this reminds me of a movie that I love, which is called Buck. It's a documentary about the horse whisperer, this was based actually The movie The Horse Whisperer with, I think, Clint Eastwood was based on this documentary about this gentleman who worked with horses, which means he really worked with the owners and what was going on there. But I say this to say that, right, the predominant thinking, the predominant way of working with horses was using like force, right? And what he showed the world is that there's a better way. There's a kinder, more gentler way to be. And I kind of translate that to kinder way to be with ourselves. Not to mention kinder way to be with others who we are in positions to influence and positions to lead and manage. And it's this way that we don't get the kind of training and education around, because we just rely on these really old habits and patterns of harshness. So, on this Friday, Feisty on Friday, I hope that you took something away from this conversation. And I hope that you really do take some time to look at how you might be being hard on yourself and what you want to choose to do differently. Because that's what it is. It's a different choice in each moment that you're recognizing it. And you may not get it, the first or second try, and you may get it 20% of the time, but 20% of the time, 5% of the time, 1% of the time, to treat yourself a little bit kinder is better than maybe what you're doing right now. And that's progress, and that's how the transformation happens, one choice at a time. That at the end of the day, when you look at your to-do list and you got 3 things done out of 15, you could say, look at that. I got 3 things done out of 15. I was kicking butt today, Use that kind of language versus, oh my God, I still have 12 things, because again, that's that psyche. It makes an impact about how we feel about ourselves, how we celebrate ourselves. It's the weekend, so let's celebrate ourselves. And since it's my birthday month, I plan on celebrating myself all month long. And even that is new for me, because we have this one birthday and we pack it in and that's it. You only get to celebrate yourself one day. No, I don't believe that. I believe that I want to practice and train myself to be okay with celebrating myself more than on my birthday. I want to get to a point where I could do it every day of my life. And I'm giving myself permission to say, yes, I want to celebrate my birthday. And I want to invite others to help me do that. And that's not being selfish. That's not ego. That is honoring myself in a way that feels good. And what the hell is wrong with that? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. So really, thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate all you guys sticking with me. And if you have any questions or comments for those listening live or after the fact, you can find me at coachtosca.com. I'm a coach and a consultant. And I work with individuals one-on-one, and I work with organizations as well. And I help you find your truth and help you live your best life and help your brand or your business also live its best life by operating from a place of authenticity and realness and finding language and business strategies that align with that. So with that, happy Friday. I look forward to seeing you next week, and ciao for now.